It's The Journey with drug and alcohol attorney Mark G. Astor.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of The Journey. Don't forget to post comments and questions as you listen to our podcast. You can also follow us on our website, Facebook, LinkedIn. I think we're on Twitter and Instagram and all those other social media platforms. And I think we're going to soon be on all the other iHeart and all those other fun stuff. So thanks for tuning in. And I'm very excited to have a very, very special guest. This is my friend Donna, and Donna also is a client of mine, and we've been working together for how long now? 6 months, something like that?
Yeah, at least.
At least. And so for purposes of sort of protecting anonymity, we won't refer to her son by name, but long story short is that she hired us to help her to get her son into treatment, and it's the show is called The Journey, but I think in this case it's somewhat apropos because this has been somewhat of a journey, right? You and I have been on?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I got a question. Where are you located right now?
I am in the mountains of North Carolina, western North Carolina, between Asheville and Boone. So about as far up in the mountains as you can get up here.
Is it beautiful up there?
It's absolutely gorgeous. I wish you could see the view. Gorgeous.
What's the weather like up there?
Today it's unusually warm. We're probably about 72 degrees.
Okay. We would be very happy in Florida if it was only 72 degrees.
It's very nice today.
So, I think the summer's in full swing here. I don't know, it feels like it's close to 90 degrees, and I think for the next couple of months I'm going to be miserable.
80.
Wow. Okay. I know where I'm going to be coming for the summer then. I got to work hard and get a summer house. So let's talk a little bit about your son, and again, I'm going to try my best not to mention him by name because I know that he would be upset. But I've had an opportunity. Obviously, I've met him a number of times in court, and he really is, for lack of a word, he really is a good boy. I think that's my impression of him. He is.
He is, and I always try to emphasize that. It's not that this person is bad and needs to be good. This is a person who is sick and needs help to get well.
So how old is he?
He turned 23 in February.
No names. It's all right. It's okay. It's okay. So he's 23. So how long have you been dealing with this, Donna? With this whole issue of really it's of addiction? How long has it been going on?
When he was first of all, my ex-husband was an addict. And so I dealt with that for a number of years. He was a very high functioning addict. He still operated a major corporation. And then my son's, we had a very tumultuous marriage there at the end. And so my son, I discovered he was an IV user and an addict by the time he was 14.
How'd you find that out?
Well, I started noticing changes in behavior, and for a while I thought this was the result of a horrific custody battle and horrific marriage ending and all that ensued following that, that it was just normal teenage behaviors acting out.
Tell us about the change in behavior, because it's interesting when I speak to mums, and it's mostly the mums that call me actually, and I say, well, how do you know your child's using? They say, I just know. There's that sort of maternal instinct, but when you get right down to it, there are just certain things they notice, like lack of hygiene. They stop eating. They cut themselves off from their friends and family. They're out all night. They sleep all day. What did you notice?
Well, I have two children, two boys, and they're only a year and a half apart. And they were involved in athletic events, basketball, baseball, soccer, you name it. My kids were in that from the time they were tiny. And so my younger son began to drop out of all activities. He was an avid skateboarder. He had sponsors. People talking to him about going pro. That all stopped. Then the little stealing began. From people's cars. That was brought to my attention by a neighbor. I did all the things that I thought that a mother should do. I went to the schools, I talked to the principals, I talked to the counselors, I talked to neighbors, actually went to a juvenile detective and said, this is what's going on with my child. And I know that there's nothing you can do and there's no charges that I want brought, but I want you to scare him. I want you to lay it out for him and tell him all the ramifications.
How old was he at this point?
He was 14 at the time.
Okay.
The first time I went to the detective and said, help me with my child. If you need to take him on a tour through the jails, whatever you need to do, emphasize to my child the ramifications, the legal ramifications of his behaviors. And then I noticed skipping school. One afternoon, I think when he was 15, I was taking a nap, and I woke up and my son was gone, and I walk outside and my car is gone. And so there were more and more behaviors like this, and then skipping school, and I couldn't find him, and I was alone. I didn't have a husband or a father that was involved. And like I said, I went to everyone that I knew to go to for help, and it just kept escalating.
Do you know if in where you are, they have anything like the Marchman Act up there?
They do not. I have tried throughout the years many times to get what we call an IVC, an involuntary commitment, done on him, and they're very difficult to get here, even though he was clearly a danger to himself. I think the stigma of addiction is still so strong here in this small town area in the mountains that I ran into a lot of, I even had one magistrate tell me he's a drug addict. If he wants to kill himself, there's nothing we can do about it.
That's crazy, no?
It is crazy.
Oh my goodness.
And I was in mental health for many years. And so I've taken out several IVC, involuntary commitment orders on my clients, by proving very easily they're a danger to themselves or others. But when it comes to a drug addict, you run into that stigma. Their life doesn't seem to count as much as someone else's. So I ran into that a lot. I had a lot of difficulty. And so finally what I had to do was take out legal guardianship, which was also difficult to achieve. But that was the only way I could get anywhere.
So how old was he when you took out guardianship?
He was 21 at the time, because this was the last resort. I didn't want to do this. No one wants to do this. But at this point, his addiction was so bad that he was probably down below 100 pounds. He's almost 6 foot tall. My arms were bigger than his legs. I tried to have an intervention, and the only people that I knew that was left in his life to have an intervention with were the people at the methadone clinic.
Right. So let me back up a second. So between 14 and 21, what was going on with his issues of using? Was it because you said at 14 you became aware that he was injecting something, right? What was it? Did you know what he was injecting?
At that time, he was already injecting heroin. From what I understand now, he began using pain pills at age 10. We lived in a super nice neighborhood, a very upper income neighborhood. These children from middle school on were bringing their parents' pain medications to school and passing them out. And this was when he was on a baseball team. And this was another baseball player. As a matter of fact, some of those children are no longer with us. There's probably been about 30 of these children now that grew up in our neighborhood and in the area that I've known since they were kindergartners that are no longer with us. 2 of my son's girlfriends are no longer with us.
That's really scary stuff.
Yeah.
And you would think, you'd say, oh, well, they're in a well-to-do neighborhood. They're higher income type families. This stuff only happens to, people who, who live in, crummy neighborhoods who don't make any money and all that stuff. But from everything I've seen, that's not true. I mean,
There is no discrimination when it comes to the disease of addiction.
so
Absolutely none.
so were you able to get him into any treatment centers between ages 14 and 21?
I was not.
Okay.
I did finally get at age 16 get him into a methadone clinic. So he
Okay.
began a methadone clinic at age 16. Now, there's many things that I've done that I've regretted, and I wish I could go back and do things different. As we all, as mothers of addicts, have done. There's been times we all enable. We're all confused. We all, we don't know what to do. We don't know the tough love, the soft love, the yelling, the screaming, the coddling, there's just really no answers. And we learn as we go.
So I got a question. What do you mean by enabling? Tell me what you mean by that. Because
Enabling, for example, when my son calls me and says, Mom, I lost my driver's license and I dropped and busted my phone and I'm hungry and there's holes in my shoes and I need $300. And when you are a mother of an addict, if you help that addict, you're hurting them. And when you don't help them, they hurt you with their vicious, because they're in withdrawal and their brain is screaming that they need to use. And so they're desperate. And it doesn't matter if it's your child, if it's your mother, if it's your best friend, if it's your wife, your husband. When you're desperate to use, you're going to steal and you're going to take advantage of the people who love you the most. And that happens quite frequently as a mother of an addict. It's every day calling and needing money for something which is actually going towards drugs.
so maybe give us some idea. Talk to us about the toll that it took on the family.
Oh, wow. That's a whole show in itself. Father and his brother, my older son, are estranged from my brother and I. I haven't had any contact with my older son in over 3 years. He's very upset with me because, he played baseball all through school, all through high school, all through college. There were times that I weren't able to make it to many of his games or many of his events because my other son had an overdose. And I would love to have been in the field cheering my son on, but I have another son who is overdosed and is in the hospital and has no one there. And I choose to go where
You were needed most.
And so there's a lot of resentment. I think I would love for my son and my son's father to be educated a little bit more on addiction, but so it's separated. Two brothers. It's separated a son and a father. It's separated a father, or excuse me, a son and a mother. Two brothers. So it's grandparents. My parents. My father is a minister, a Baptist minister here in the mountains, and everything is pretty much black and white. And he's a chaplain at a prison. He's had nothing to do with my son for probably 6 or 7 years.
Why is that?
Because he thinks he feels it's a choice, and that if my son wanted to stop, he could stop. That this is a choice he's making. So it's and that's one thing that irritates me so much. They're fine now; they do speak now, just within the last year, so which makes me happy. But when I hear the term "it's a choice," I want to scream sometimes because, like I said, my son started at age 10. Had this been had this been cancer, any other brain injury, brain whatever, there would be a different reaction to his disease. And so maybe some people might think that he had the choice to pick up at age 10, but I don't think that he had the capacity to realize the consequences of his future when he began using. So I can't say that it was a choice at the time.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the time I deal with parents, and sometimes a bit like this situation where the parents are not together, but they sort of come together just for the sake of their child, and so on one hand you have, like, maybe it's the mom, and it's not always the mom, but just for sake of argument, it's the mom who ultimately ends up enabling, and then there's the father who says, it's a choice, screw him, tough love, let him kick him out of the house.
Right.
And, and I tell him, look, the goal here is to get your child into treatment, and neither one of those sort of roads gets us where we need to be. So, I mean, let's talk about that as opposed to whether or not enabling or not enabling is going on here. So, and that I find that's an important conversation to have. But you're right. I mean, there's definitely the idea of that, it's a conscious decision to stick a needle in your nose or stick a needle in your arm and a powder up your nose, right? So I'm glad that you said that. So let's fast forward. Refresh my recollection how you and I ended up getting connected.
Okay, well, back at the end of October, I had gotten a message from someone that said, my son looks really bad. So I skipped work one day and I drove over to the trap house where he was staying and saw for myself. And it was shocking. And I had just seen him 2 weeks before, and the change. I mean, he looked bad then, but he was literally, I think he was dying. So I did the intervention, and that day he tested positive for heroin, fentanyl, cocaine, benzos, methadone, a whole slew of medications. So the methadone clinic, the doctor, the therapist, everyone left with me, and we took him to detox. And the detox said at that point, he's dying. Get him in an ambulance now. This ended up going through. I ended up taking him. He kept leaving, walking out. There was nothing anyone could do because he was an adult. I ended up taking him to 6 different counties all over, trying to get IVCs, trying to get a doctor, a hospital, a judge, somebody to help, and kept running into roadblocks. And that's when I went and finally obtained legal guardianship and put him on a plane, which was a miracle itself. That was a whole different story, but got him on a plane to this rehab in Florida. And the next morning they called and said he's walking out and there's nothing you can do unless you get Marchman Act. Right.
So
and I called you. And here we are.
How about that? And we've remained close friends. It's it's interesting. So when I first started to do this kind of work, so I'll share a few things with you. When I first started to do this work about 4-ish years ago, it seemed like a lot of the treatment centers were marketing, come down to Florida, sit on the beach and, get into recovery. And then, the task force came along, the Sober Homes Task Force here in Palm Beach County, run by State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg. And I actually, when it comes to these issues, he routinely calls me and I go up there and I talk to the task force. And what's happened is, and I told them this the last time I was there because they were talking about some changes to the Marchman Act they wanted me to chat with them about. And I explained to them, I said, what you don't understand is what you've done. You've changed things at ground zero here because what's happened is you've either arrested all the bad actors or the ones that were cheating have gone out of business. And what's happened is it's now left a core group of treatment centers down there that I think, for the most part, are doing a great job. I mean, for mums like you, to me, there's really very few places you can send your children. California, Texas, and Florida. I mean, there's a few sprinkled, I think, in your neck of the woods. I've heard there's some in Tennessee. But as a general rule, yeah, I mean, the pickings are slim. And if you want to have a safety net, there's only one place to come, and that's Florida, because only Florida has the Marchman Act.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, and I tell this to parents, and what's interesting, Donna, is, we speak to parents. I've had a mother flying literally from Seattle, Washington for a hearing in the same courthouse you and I. Well, actually, I'm going to be in court tomorrow morning, by the way, P.S. And, to me, if you're sending your child, 500, 1,000, 3,000 miles to not have that safety net there, To me,
Well,
that's
it was one of my biggest fears to
crazy.
see him there because I'd heard so many horror stories of patient brokering. And that actually happened to him. The very first, before I got a hold of you, I finally had gotten him into a mental hospital after I've taken him all these different hospitals and counties. And I finally got him into a mental hospital after I got legal custody. And then he got sent to another rehab, the first one, which was one of the patient brokering places where they have security guards outside and they're shuffling drugs in front of you and they're trying to, you're a zombie and it just wasn't a very good place. There are very few reputable places that you can feel like you can send your child to. So I was terrified to send him to Florida. And the fact that and when he walks out up here, I can find him. I've made enough over the years. I've went out and tried to find my child so many times when he's been homeless on the streets. I can find him here. I've made enough contacts. And I found him in other cities, but I don't think I could find him in Fort Lauderdale or Miami or so I was very relieved when I got in contact with you and realized there was something I could do to keep him there. And it wasn't going to be like in North Carolina when you do an IVC, they send them to the hospital and they can hold them up for 3 days. But if the doctor chooses to send them home right then, he can. So you work to get that involuntary commitment order, and then you get them to the hospital, and the doctor says, if he don't want to go to treatment, there's nothing I can do, and they walk out the door. So I was grateful that in Florida, it's the Marchman Act. If he leaves, he's going to and refuses to go back to treatment, then he's going to go to jail and get treatment there. But at least he's getting treatment,
And he's off the streets.
A 1 or 2 day thing.
He's off the streets and hopefully doesn't have access to
off the streets.
Access to substances. So
right.
I know that we had him in treatment for how long? Was it at least 90 days?
3 months. We took the Marchman Act out, I think January the 2nd, somewhere around in that date. He ended up walking away from treatment the last of February. So it wasn't there long. Then we had an extension filed. So it's I'm grateful for that Marchman Act. Very, very grateful. Because I have no doubt my son would have been dead right now. There's no question in my mind. He would have been dead. So.
I'm glad that you said that. Not that he would have been dead, but that the Marchman Act helped you because
absolutely
not every parent feels the same way.
It was a tough thing to do. And I think you remember, if you recall, I cried through the entire conversation that we had the very first night I talked to you, and probably the second time that I spoke with you. I cried the entire time.
What's interesting, Donna, is I've spoken to so many crying moms over the years.
I'm so glad now. I feel so much better about the decision, and I know I made the right decision. And I would do it all over again in a heartbeat, and I have done it over again as far as getting the extension. So I'm eternally grateful for that Marchman Act, and I think every state should have that.
Yeah, and I know that that's a conversation that somebody recently approached me about having with some folks on the federal level. But I think what people don't understand is that if you're sending your child to treatment in Florida, if they walk out, there's nothing you can do about it, and good luck finding them. I mean, it's near impossible. So I know that we had a little episode recently, because we're going to be back in court tomorrow, where he actually had basically fled the jurisdiction of the court. Somehow got himself, I think, was it a plane or a bus that he took back up to?
I think he took a plane that time. There's been a couple of incidents since he left the rehab there, which he was still under the Marchman Act. So of course he was subjected to an arrest if he didn't return. I had no idea where he was for about 8 weeks. I had other moms of addicts who were on the ground in Florida with posters and out on the streets looking for him. And then he shows back up here in Asheville. So.
I know, I was following your posts somewhat religiously on Facebook.
Yeah.
And even from my objective standpoint, they were heartbreaking.
Thank you.
That's why I don't sleep at night, I think.
It's not easy, but he is my child, and he may be an adult. I would love to give up this fight one day. I hope I can. That when he has the capacity to make rational decisions for himself and logical decisions and can think, and um, his brain has healed enough that he can carry on the fight for himself. So
Yes.
I'm just giving him the tools, fighting to have the tools there, and hope that he has the courage to utilize them.
Yeah, so I know that he left North Carolina. My understanding is he went to a facility in Texas right before he came back down
Yes,
here.
he did. He returned back to the facility that he knew would give him drugs, and with no intention of getting well. And then he got down there and called me in the middle of the night, right before I'm getting ready to open my business the next morning for the season, and said, whispered, "Mom, get me out. Help, get me out of here fast." And of course, I'm said, I've given you the resources, I've given you the doctors, and I've given you names to call. You make the call this time, and I will help you do, as long as you're in recovery. I'll make sure you have food, your health needs are taken care of, you have everything that you need. But I will no longer make these phone calls for you. This is your responsibility. And he managed to get out on his own, which was a very scary thing for me. I didn't sleep all night that night, but he managed to get a bus ticket and get out of there. And so
So he's back down in treatment here. I know we're going in front of the judge tomorrow just to get a court order in place, but maybe we could take a minute just to share that there was the one story while he was down here and having issues of. I think at one time he had gone from residential to IOP, and he was
correct.
working and had a relapse, which for the folks watching is not. I mean, that I hate to say it, but sometimes a relapse is part of recovery. It's not unusual.
Absolutely.
It's not unusual for that to happen, but there was the whole story of the dentist.
Yes. Well, all of his teeth from years of usage, all of his teeth, every single tooth in his head is abscessed. And so, of course, he uses to numb not only the emotional pain, but the physical pain that he's got too. So anyway, he was doing IOP, and he had a job, ironically at a bar down there, because his only skills right now are washing dishes. And so he had gotten a job and went out to take the trash out one night to the dumpster, and someone was standing there and offered him some drugs. And he took them, and he relapsed, and he disappeared from rehab in Florida for 3 days. I had no idea where he was. No one did, and I was panicking. Um, Amazingly, he came back on his own. So,
What was the story though that you shared with me where there was a request for money to go to the dentist?
oh, that one. Yeah, yeah.
That was an
There's
interesting story. I hope you don't mind sharing it, but I thought it was.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. There's so many with him. It's always something. He had called and said, I had fixed one tooth that was bothering it. I had sent him to the dentist for one tooth. He said, I've got another one, because they wanted to do it in phases. They can't do all of his mouth at one time. He'd have to be hospitalized, drugs, all this other stuff. So we're doing it one tooth at a time. He said, Mom, I can't stand it anymore. I have to go to the dentist. I need money. And I'm like, I'll put it on your books. Well, to put it on his books through the rehab, it takes like 3 days to get to him. Mom, it's an emergency. I've got to get to the dentist. So I don't trust him. So I tell him to call, have his resident manager from the IOP outpatient where he's staying to call me. Certainly, no problem. I get a phone call from some guy. Hello, Miss Stafford. I'm such and such resident manager. And I'm like, okay, I need to send this money, but I'm going to send it in your name for you to pick up and you to be responsible for, and make sure that this is what this money is going for. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. If you need anything, let me know. I'm here for you anytime. And then later that night, I get a call from the residential manager, but it's a different phone number and it's a different voice. So Andrew had one of the other clients that was also with him on outpatient call and trick me for money. And apparently Andrew had did the same thing to this other mom for this guy. So yeah, even in rehab, I got
Dude.
taken for a few $100s there.
Well, hopefully this will be hopefully this is gonna be the last time I have to run back to court, you know, for him.
Well, I hope so.
I'm
I hope
hoping
so.
so. I'm hoping so. But I want to before we sort of wrap up. So when I came in, I know that you're working on a new business. Because every time I try to call you, you're like, "Oh, I'm busy with my new business." You're always busy. So maybe tell us what you're doing up there.
Okay, well, it's not actually a new business. We're in our 25th year this year. I'm the executive director of a historical apple orchard, but it's so much more than apples. Our mission, we're a nonprofit, and so our mission is to preserve the history, the land, the cultures, and traditions of the Appalachian Mountain people. So I book about 160 free concerts during the day, bluegrass, country, rock and roll. I also have several free children's programs where I have like the park rangers come and take them on a hike, or we do an Indian dancer will come and teach them an Indian dance, things like that. I have plays, several plays during the year. We have hay rides, we have a grill, we have a general store. Lots of things happening here. We have this is also happens to be the place where the Over Mountain men marched on their way to the Revolutionary War at Kings Mountain that changed, which Thomas Jefferson says changed the course of the history of the Revolutionary War. So there's a lot of history here. We do free dance lessons. I teach clogging, flat footing, waltzing, two-stepping. So we have a lot of fun here. We have about 40, 45 people on staff, and
Wow,
we're
that's some operation.
I'm sorry.
That's some operation.
Yeah, it's great. It's a magical place here. We don't have Wi-Fi, so it's kind of like taking the best from a church and the best from a family reunion, leaving all the drama and all that behind, and just that spirit of fellowship. And yeah, it's a nice place.
So I love it. So how do folks find out about the not-for-profit that you work for?
We have a website you can go to. It's called altapassorchard.org. I'll spell that for you. My southern accent, I'm not sure you can understand, but it's A as in apple, LTAPASSORCHARD.org. And we're also on Facebook, the historic Altapass Orchard.
Wow. So do you ever speak to any parents at all who are having issues or have lost a child?
I do, and there is a whole network of moms of addicts. We have our own little private groups on Facebook in different states throughout the country. We talk about experiences at bad rehabs we have. We talk about the good rehabs. If there's I have frequently mothers who will call and say, my son is homeless in Asheville. Can you help me find him? And I will whatever I'm doing, I stop and I go to Asheville and hunt for this child and let his get by him a meal, whatever it is that mom wants for him. And they do the same for my child and many other children. And this is a small town where I'm at now, so there's not a whole lot of resources up here. So I'm trying to work on that. I'm hoping to have as a speaker here. There's a man you may have had on your show before, Luis Garcia.
Yeah, he's the Narcan guy.
Right. So I'm hoping to have Luis up here.
He's terrific.
Class.
He's doing amazing work. He really is.
He is. He really is. So I try to, I can't save my child. If love could save my child, and if all the hard work and the tears and the talking and all the things I've done can't save my child, the one thing I can do is use my voice to help destigmatize this horrible disease. And maybe if enough people are educated, then we can make a change and get more help for our children. out here, more resources, more reputable rehabs, more educated judges, more educated doctors, and help for our children. Our children are dying. I have so many, like I said at the beginning, I can count up at least 30 of my child's friends whose children have died. And this is a small town. This is Western North Carolina in the mountains.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. So if a parent who watches the show wants to maybe reach out to you or one of the groups, how would they do that?
Absolutely. They can contact me on Facebook. They can contact me on web. And I'll give you my personal email as well and send anyone to any kind of resources that I have. I would love to share those. My personal email is Donna Stafford, DonnaStafford, @altapassorchard.org. So you're welcome to call me, email me, reach me through the Orchard page, the Orchard website, any way that they'd like. So I'd be happy to share any kind of resources with any parent at any time.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing this stuff with us.
Well, I'm so grateful for your firm for doing what you do. I wish there were more Mark Astors out there.
Please, my mother would never have it.
I don't think so.
I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this. We might actually, hopefully, I'm hoping that we'll save somebody just because they'll hear the story and they'll take some action.
Okay.
So don't go anywhere. I have to sign off, but stay with me for a second, okay?
Right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, folks. I think you heard it from Donna. I mean, if you know anybody that we can help, even if they reach out to me or they reach out to Donna, I mean, get help for your children or they end up dead or in prison. You can find us on the web, drugandalcoholattorneys.com. You can email me, Mark, at drugandalcoholattorneys.com, or 561-419-6095 is our phone number. Please like and subscribe our YouTube channel. I've gotten better at that, huh, Jay? Twitter, LinkedIn, or just Google my name, you'll find us. So until the next show, thanks for tuning in.